Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This comes from Brunson Taylor. Hey, John, been watching you since the 4-year consideration days with Dennis.
That's going back a ways.
Like you, I was disappointed with how the Boba Fett show worked out. I guess we're not the only ones because Temuera Morrison just came out and said that they need to get the character back to being a badass. Do you agree with him, or do you think the problems with the show went beyond just that? Thanks and have a great day.
All right, Brunson, thanks a lot for saying that in. And yeah, look, when Mandalorian season 2 came to an end, and they did that post-credit tag with Boba Fett walking into Jabba's palace, taking out Bib Fortuna, and then sitting there on that throne. I mean, come on. Like, the juices got thrown, the blood was pumping. We were all excited. It looked incredible. Because Boba Fett in Mandalorian season 2 was awesome. That was John Wick in Star Wars right there. He was incredible in that. So, like most people, I was really excited about Book of Boba Fett coming out. And it had a couple of episodes. A couple of the episodes were all right. And then somewhere along the line, the Vespa gang showed up. And they're talking about wars when it's really a gang of 6 people versus a gang of 12 people. And then came that, of course, big scene when they're breaking back into Jabba's palace. And Boba Fett picks up a little droid. This little annoying droid just picks up and holds it against the wall and goes, I am Boba Fett. I'm like, this show has lost me. Now, that's not to say it didn't have moments. Bryce Dallas Howard came in and nearly saved that show single-handedly. Thank you, Bryce Dallas Howard. But it was just, by the end of it, it was just like, and it was slow. I'm not even talking pacing. I'm talking like even the action scenes. Like there's a scene where he's walking through the street and then he gets surrounded by all these guys and he's, and I know Temuera Morrison can go faster than that. I know he can be faster, but it's like, this lugging, sad, pathetic kind of thing. And again, while Book of Boba Fett absolutely had its moments, it ended up kind of disappointing. I'm just like, I like the idea of Boba Fett realizing, you know what, I've been living my life one way and I've just been screwed left, right, and center every time. I'm now out for me and I'm going to do things by my own code. I love that idea for a show. You just need to execute it right. And to me, that wasn't it. And now you're right. The actor of the show himself seems to kind of think that they did it the wrong way. This comes to us from Temuera Morrison himself, who said the following: we've got to bring him back somewhere. We've got to see the old Boba Fett. We reintroduced him. We found out some stuff, but I think it's time to get him back to his badass ways. No two ways around that. So I think we sort of have to scope to go back there, but that's out of my control. I'll just see what happens. And that, of course, comes to us from the actor himself, Temuera Morrison. And I got to say, he's 100% right. He is 100% right. Because right now, if you had asked people 2 years ago, you want to see a Boba Fett show? Everybody's jumping out of the seat saying, hell yes. You ask everybody today, you want to see Boba Fett season 2?
8 million. Sorry.
People who are only watching this segment won't know what that's about. 8 million. But you ask that today, the reaction is not going to be as enthusiastic. They damaged a character that was utterly beloved for decades to add, no, Jen is my Mandalorian now. Din is my Mandalorian now. It's just, they really did that. So I really hope that he's right. I hope they will bring Boba Fett back because, again, I try to block the Boba Fett show out of my mind and I just go back to Mandalorian season 2. It's like, that's Boba Fett. That's the Boba Fett I want to see. The old grizzled war dog who will take you out without thinking twice about it. That's who I want to see. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, MasterClass. MasterClass offers classes on a wide variety of topics, all taught by world-class instructors at the very top of their fields. Each class is broken out into individual video lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. And MasterClass is completely accessible on your phone, the web, smart TV, and available via audio mode to listen to classes on the go. They have over 2,500 video lessons from over 180 of today's most brilliant minds. They're all available anytime, anywhere on iOS, Android, desktop, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. Now, obviously around here on the John Campea Show, we love our movies, so why not learn filmmaking from Jodie Foster, or maybe directing from Ron Howard himself, or the great Neil Gaiman doing his masterclass on the art of storytelling. And you guys have heard me talk about my favorite masterclass, Business Strategy and Leadership by Big Papa Iger himself, Bob Iger, the new and returning CEO of Disney. Guys, I highly recommend that you check it out. This holiday, give the perfect gift of an annual masterclass membership and get one free. Go to masterclass.com/Campea today. That's masterclass.com/Campea. Terms apply. Anyway, Chris, I mean, obviously, on one hand, if you want to be a little bit more skeptical, you could say, well, this just sounds like an actor who's angling to get the role he's best known for back again. But I think he's making a point. What do you make of his words?
Yeah, I do think it's also, hey, I'm listening to these fans too, and I hear you, and I think we should get onto a different trajectory. Unpopular opinion. Was Boba Fett ever cool? Because in the original films, he gets his blaster cut in half by a lightsaber, and he falls into a Sarlacc pit. That's what happens. He wears spurs. That's neat. But I think Boba Fett tried to give this character a backstory, tried to give him some more meaning, because all we saw was this guy who we knew was hunting Han Solo, who had like a certain sound to the way he walked, and we decided he was cool.
Well, I think that came from Empire Strikes Back, though, before Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
The coolest comes from what we saw him do. He was single-handedly outsmarted Han Solo, was able to track them down, stood side by side, and spoke back to Darth Vader. He's not worth anything to me dead, sort of thing. Like, that's the part that made people feel like he was cool. But then you're right, we get into Return of the Jedi, and they didn't do a lot with him there.
There's just, there's some things there that I don't think add up to the legend of Boba Fett that was built up around this character and his action figures and everything. Now, then we got, to your point, we got the kind of Mandalorian, that Boba Fett that we wanted with the Mandalorian, with Jin. And I don't understand why then you have this badass character who kind of fills that bounty hunter vibe. You wouldn't go whole hog on the crime boss vibe that was coming up with Boba Fett.
Right.
Lean into that. Get your hands dirty. Don't have the Power Rangers show up. What was that nonsense on their little bikes? Have a really cool adult story. Like we saw with, I know we talk about this all the time, but what we've seen with Andor. Get gritty. Show a dark side of things, because a seedy crime town isn't going to be all about hope and working together. It's going to have some messed up shit happen. And I think that's what they laid into more than badassery.
Rob, what do you think about his words?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. I mean, the Boba Fett show it wasn't even true to itself. Like, they spent the beginning of it with him ingratiating himself to the Tuskens, right? And they basically are local control of that planet, of Tatooine. So the idea of him becoming a crime boss, he's like, oh, I've got this resource. I mean, even Duke Leto Atreides says in Arrakis, we need to make friends with the
desert
Fremen.
power.
We need desert power. That's what he was cultivating. And at the end of that show, they should have had the clans of Tuskens that were now unified under Boba Fett roll in and just take over that town and do something cool. And that show, it had no direction. It lurched to and fro. And now back to the Mandalorian for 2 episodes. It was such a weird, I thought, very ill-conceived show. And like you pointed out, why the idea of a man wanting to change his ways, he's been fucked over, he's a bounty hunter, he's like all these people, and he wants something for himself, and he's been given an opportunity. Literally, he's resurrected coming out of the Sarlacc pit. Here's a new beginning for me. That's rich drama. That's great for a character like Boba Fett. Tell us that story, and they just didn't. So I can understand. I mean, all Temuera Morrison can do is read the lines that were given to him. And after coming off of season 2 of Mando, where, like you said, he was taking out stormtroopers with his gaffy stick. I mean, that guy barehanded would just kill MFers, and it was awesome. And then you get to Book of Boba Fett. That was inexplicable to me. I watched that show slack-jawed most of the time going, what kind of a show is this supposed to be?
Yeah, and you know what? Like, narratively, one of the big mistakes they've made, like, I get it. You want to have these flashback scenes, right? And going back and we're finding, they literally did that for like 3 episodes. We had to go to those flashback scenes to get the background story over the course of 3 episodes. And granted, when he comes back to the village and finds all of his friends remember I said, like, when Willow's friend died, I didn't feel it. When Boba came back to the village and found all of his Tusken family dead, I felt it. Like that was great. But it was drawn out over 3 full episodes to get that one moment of payoff. And then from there, it just kind of went down. And then they did all this inexplicable stuff. Why is he trying to fly over the Sarlacc pit? And he knows he climbed out of the Sarlacc. Why did he think his armor was still in there? He literally climbed out of the Sarlacc pit with his armor on. I mean, it was just filled with those types of moments. And it was just like, and wait, why does he rule this? Why does he rule this planet? Oh, because he lives in that big house with 6 other people. It's like, what? There was never a sense of scale or scope or anything.
No, and also it's called the Book of Boba Fett. I really wanted to know after Django's head was cut off in the arena in Geonosis, well, how did he go from there, holding his father's head in his hands, to becoming the Boba Fett we know and love? The Book of Boba Fett made me assume that I'm going to get chapters of his life.
Yeah, rather than 3 episodes of flashbacks with the Tuskens, how about 1 episode of flashbacks with the Tuskens, 1 episode of flashbacks of what happened after the events of Attack of the Clones to see how he became who he was. But anyway, what if, could have, should have, would have, it is what it is. Guys, question is for you. What do you think of Temuera's comments here that they got to get him back to being a badass? Like, not everything has to be dark and harsh and whatever, but they gave us a tease of him in Mandalorian, and then they kind of dropped the ball in Book of Boba Fett. Do you think we'll ever see Boba Fett again? Do you even want to see Boba Fett again? Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.